My sister spread a bad rumor about me at school because she was jealous, so I stopped talking to her. Then she tried to take my fiancé at our wedding, so I called her out in front of everyone. I, a 27-year-old female, hosted my rehearsal dinner last night and I'm getting married tomorrow. However, the evening concluded with an unsettling incident that led to me dismissing my sister from the wedding, leaving my mother quite upset. Now, I'm questioning if I'm truly at fault here, as my mother suggests. Let's delve into the backstory between my sister and me for clarity. My sister, Jennifer, is 2 years my junior and has harbored intense animosity towards me for reasons unbeknownst to me. This tension isn't new. It started when she was 15. Before this rift, we weren't particularly close, but there wasn't outright hostility. Our father treated us equally, often chastising her when her antics went too far, whereas our mother, perhaps due to Jennifer being the younger one, always seemed to have a soft spot for her. Whenever conflicts arose, my mother's advice to me was to overlook the issues because I was the elder one, expected to be more mature. I held on to this belief that maturity would prevail, but the dynamics only worsened. By the time I was in my senior year of high school and Jennifer was a sophomore, popular among her peers, she unexpectedly chose to tarnish my reputation. She spread a vicious rumor suggesting I was behind a series of thefts at our school. This was during a period when multiple students from various grades reported missing belongings, a situation later traced back to a recently hired janitor, clearing my name. Though this incident occurred years ago, the effects linger, emphasizing the complex layers of sibling relationships. According to a study on family dynamics, approximately 45% of adults report experiencing long-term strain with a sibling, often stemming from childhood rivalries or perceived parental favoritism. Jennifer convinced herself that she needed to tarnish my reputation by labeling me a kleptomaniac. She speculated wildly that I was the one spiraling out of control, pilfering from fellow students. Her popularity fueled the rumor, which spread rapidly through our school community. As you can imagine, the cruelty of teenagers knows few bounds. This led to relentless bullying and name-calling, making school a battleground I increasingly chose to avoid. The torment became so unbearable that I started skipping classes. Determined to unearth the origin of this slander, I spent days investigating whispers and rumors. The revelation that my own sister was the instigator was a brutal blow. While handling it privately was an option, I opted for public confrontation, mirroring her method of humiliation. In the crowded cafeteria, I confronted her. When she nonchalantly admitted to spreading the lies, I couldn't hold back my outrage and publicly called her out. In my fury, I recounted her own misdeeds for all to hear, her secretive double dating with her ex-boyfriend and his cousin, and her inappropriate flirtations with our housekeeper's older son, which had caused enough discomfort for him to alert our parents. The most mortifying revelation I shared was about her habit of not showering during holidays. While many might relax their hygiene routines, declaring such a personal detail in front of peers was devastating for her reputation. As she became the subject of ridicule, I felt a harsh satisfaction, reflecting the deep scars her actions had left on me. The initial spark for our estrangement was the rumor Jennifer spread about me. Our conflict escalated into a massive home argument where harsh words flew, and it nearly turned physical. Fortunately, our parents intervened just in time. That confrontation marked the end of our communication. Afterward, we coexisted as if invisible to each other, even under the same roof. My departure for college a few months later was a relief. Even during my returns home, I avoided any interaction with her. Thus, a decade slipped by, filled with silent acknowledgments and separate visits to our parents. Our tacit agreement to avoid each other during family visits persisted until life took an unexpected turn. 2 years ago, our father succumbed to an aneurysm. His death brought us together at his funeral, and amidst that grief, Jennifer and I tentatively set aside our feud to support our mother. Since then, our holiday visits have been jointly orchestrated, awkward, yet bearable, thanks to my mother's efforts to bridge the gap. Having Jacob, my fiancé, join these gatherings helped ease the lingering tension. The thaw in our relationship, however slow, gained a bit of momentum when I got engaged. Despite my reservations, my mother persuaded me to invite Jennifer to the wedding. Jacob supported the idea, suggesting it might be a good opportunity to finally bury the hatchet, considering it had been a decade since our last major conflict. Though the suggestion felt overly sentimental, I conceded. In crafting the guest list, I took a measured approach. Jennifer was invited to the wedding, but not to the engagement party or bridal shower, which I reserved for those closest to me. This gesture of inclusion was my olive branch, extended in the hopes of mending fences on a day meant for new beginnings. When Jennifer received her invitation, she expressed her gratitude unexpectedly, noting she hadn't anticipated being included, but was thankful for the opportunity to move past our history. Her reaction led me to believe she had indeed changed, and given it had been a decade since our high school debacle, I assumed we were all beyond those issues. Currently, all my guests, including my fiancé and I, are settled in the hotel we chose for our wedding venue. Located a bit away from the hustle of the city, we've been here for 2 days. The evening before last, we held a welcome party for the guests who had traveled from afar, which went into the late hours of the night. Jennifer was notably sociable at the event, mingling freely and even posing for numerous photos with me, which reassured me about my decision to invite her. However, my comfort was short-lived. Later that night, a disturbing turn of events unfolded. My fiancé, Jacob, who was staying in a separate room due to traditional superstitions held by our parents about bad luck pre-wedding, came to my room around 1 a.m. with a troubling discovery, a letter from Jennifer. The party had wrapped up by midnight, and I was just about to retire when Jacob knocked on my door. He was visibly unsettled as he handed me the letter, immediately recognizable by Jennifer's distinctive handwriting. Before finding me, Jacob had been preparing to sleep when a hotel staffer delivered the letter to him, stating it was sent by the lady from room 306, undeniably Jennifer, despite her failure to sign it. It seemed she underestimated the strength and transparency of the relationship between Jacob and me, a critical error considering our impending marriage. Jennifer began the letter with a plea for secrecy between her and Jacob, setting a conspiratorial tone. The contents, however, were astonishingly deceptive, even by her standards. Despite her seemingly normal behavior recently, the letter dredged up our past conflicts but twisted the facts. She portrayed herself as the victim, claiming it was I who harbored unprovoked animosity and bullied her. She revisited the high school incident, alleging that I was the instigator of vile rumors about her and that her public confrontation was merely a response to my attacks, which supposedly led to our estrangement. But she didn't stop there. Jennifer spun further falsehoods, accusing me of tormenting her even after high school. She claimed I flirted with her boyfriend whenever I returned from college, ultimately causing their breakup. Her letter painted me as a persistent nightmare in her life, alleging I had inflicted deep trauma. She justified her presence at the wedding by asserting that Jacob was a decent man who deserved better than me. According to her, she attended the wedding out of a duty to save Jacob from what she predicted would be a disastrous marriage once my true colors emerged. Most shockingly, she confessed to having feelings for Jacob, suggesting that their brief interactions had sparked her affection. She even proposed eloping with him if he felt inclined, arguing that fate had reunited us merely to connect her with Jacob. Jennifer concluded the letter by stating she would wait for him in the parking lot after the rehearsal dinner, away from prying eyes, to discuss her propositions further. Jacob, disturbed by the letter's content, immediately came to share it with me, ensuring I was fully informed of her intentions. Jacob appeared visibly ill, which was somewhat ironic given the situation, but it compelled me to comfort him. He began apologizing profusely, feeling responsible since he had encouraged me to invite Jennifer and make peace with the past. I don't hold this against him. Under normal circumstances, anyone would advocate for reconciliation, especially now that we're approaching our 30s and supposed to be mature adults. Yet, it's clear that Jennifer remains entangled in past grievances, unlike me. Jacob was taken aback by her actions, but my feelings verged on fury. She had feigned normalcy only to exploit my renewed trust. It seems true that no matter how a snake sheds its skin, its nature remains unchanged, and Jennifer was proof of this adage. Determined not to let history repeat itself with her escaping unscathed, I resolved that she would face consequences this time. I shared my plan with Jacob, who, despite being primarily disgusted and unnerved by Jennifer's disturbing behavior, agreed to support me. Our plan was straightforward, likely anticipated by some. After calming me for about half an hour, Jacob returned to his room and placed a call to Jennifer, playing along with her ploy. He assured her they could meet in the parking lot after the rehearsal dinner as she had suggested, using the code "whiskey on ice" to signal when he would be ready to step out. That evening, as dessert was served, Jacob executed the signal by ordering a whiskey on ice. True to the cue, Jennifer excused herself, ostensibly heading for the ladies' room. We watched her leave, confident our plan was unfolding as intended. Instead of following her, Jacob and I stood together and publicly revealed the existence of the letter and detailed its manipulative contents to all our guests. Understandably, everyone was taken aback by the revelations, but there was no time to dwell on their shock. We promptly informed them that Jennifer was waiting for Jacob in the parking lot, inviting anyone with lingering doubts to see for themselves. Although I suspect no one harbored any real skepticism, the crowd followed us to the parking lot. When we arrived, Jennifer, momentarily paralyzed like a deer in headlights, quickly regained her composure and attempted to flee. However, her efforts were futile as the truth was already laid bare, achieving our intended goal. The aftermath was chaotic. Uncertainty permeated the air. I directed everyone back to their rooms, retaining only my mother and my in-laws for a more private confrontation. We headed to Jennifer's room, uncertain if we would find her there, but she was. It took several knocks before she opened the door, her face blotchy and red with distress. Upon seeing me, she lunged forward in a fit of rage, but Jacob intervened, pushing her back. I demanded she leave immediately. Without a word, she retreated inside, where it was evident from her partially packed bags that she intended to depart without further prompting. My mother was the most affected by the events. Inside Jennifer's room, she broke down, questioning why Jennifer would engage in such destructive behavior when it was clear she had no real affection for Jacob. Instead of answering, Jennifer continued to pack silently, swiftly exiting once done. After her departure, there was little left to say. My in-laws excused themselves to retire for the night, but before Jacob and I could follow, my mother stopped us. She acknowledged our right to feel betrayed by Jennifer's actions, but questioned our method of handling the situation. She suggested that if I took issue with Jennifer's accusations, I should have addressed them more maturely rather than resorting to public humiliation. This left me perplexed. In my view, I hadn't done anything egregious, certainly nothing to match Jennifer's deceit. I pressed my mother for further explanation, prompting her to elaborate that resolving such issues should resemble adult negotiations, not teenage dramatics. I should have handled the situation privately and dismissed her without the public spectacle, my mother admonished. Her words sparked my anger as I accused her of always siding with Jennifer, focusing solely on her feelings even now when she clearly instigated the debacle. But my mother countered firmly, acknowledging Jennifer's actions as reprehensible and admitting she had erred in encouraging the invitation. However, she insisted that my response should not have involved dragging our family's reputation through the mud by making a spectacle at the wedding. She pointed out how juvenile it appeared to involve all the guests, likely causing discomfort among them and overshadowing the wedding itself. At that moment, my desire for revenge had blinded me to these considerations. Despite my mother's perspective, I retorted dismissively, asserting that I didn't value her opinion on the matter. Jacob and I retreated to our room, leaving unresolved tensions behind. The following day, as everyone enjoyed a free day before the wedding, I sought feedback from my maid of honor and bridesmaids. They confirmed that the incident was the talk of the evening but believed it would be forgotten by the wedding. When asked directly if I had gone too far, they supported my right to handle the situation as I saw fit, especially given Jennifer's history. However, my mother's silence since that confrontation weighed on me, stirring an unexpected guilt. Perhaps she was correct. Perhaps my method was indeed juvenile and excessively vindictive. Reflecting on it, I realized my actions were driven by a desire to make Jennifer experience the pain she had caused me. Yet, I couldn't ignore the fact that she had foolishly ignited this drama by writing that letter to Jacob. Now, I couldn't help but question if my approach was just as flawed as her judgment. Anyway, coming to my question, was I wrong for humiliating my sister and kicking her out of my wedding after she tried to sabotage my relationship with my fiancé? Update 1. Hey guys, I'm getting married tomorrow morning, and I know I risk dark circles by staying up late, but I needed to vent. Tonight, I discussed everything with Jacob and also considered various comments suggesting that my actions might have been excessive. Many agreed that Jennifer's betrayal justified a strong response, yet there was consensus that I could have handled it more gracefully. Indeed, my mother was right in her criticism. I might not have managed the situation in the best possible manner, but ultimately, it was my choice. I don't always need to be politically correct. Sometimes, acting on impulse is inevitable, though it doesn't exempt me from facing the consequences. Speaking of consequences, it meant I needed to mend fences with my mother, who was clearly distressed. So a few hours ago, Jacob and I visited her. Despite her initial upset, she welcomed us with a hug, confessing she'd been on the verge of coming to us first. Before we could speak, she ushered us into her room and expressed her desire to apologize. She admitted to seeing things solely from her perspective, neglecting to consider my feelings. After reflecting for a day, she acknowledged the outrageousness of Jennifer's letter and understood why I felt compelled to act decisively. While she might not have chosen my method, she recognized it was my life and my decision. If humiliating Jennifer seemed necessary for my sense of justice, it wasn't her place to dictate my actions. I appreciated her self-reflection and admitted she had a point about my approach, apologizing for my initial outburst in return. I thought our conversation was complete, but my mother added that she regretted always siding with Jennifer during our childhood. This explained why I still felt she would support Jennifer regardless of the circumstances. However, she assured me that she had severed ties with Jennifer shortly after her departure, deciding not to speak with her until she offered a sincere apology to both of us. Afterward, Jacob, my mother, and I briefly shared our excitement for the wedding the next morning before returning to our rooms. I'm relieved I heeded the advice to reconcile with my mother. It truly paid off, and now I'm poised to marry as a content woman. Update 2. Hi, I married Jacob last week, and I thought the saga with my sister was behind us. Despite being humiliated and removed from the wedding, Jennifer attempted to stir more drama. This time, she claimed on Facebook that her outrageous suggestion for Jacob to elope was because she believed I was detrimental to him and she was offering him a better life. She also falsely alleged that Jacob had been giving her encouraging signals, claims I know to be entirely untrue. My trust in Jacob is unshakable, and his loyalty has been proven time and again. I didn't initially see her post since I had blocked her, but relatives informed me about it, quickly coming to my defense. They knew the truth and had seen Jennifer's handwriting on the letter themselves. They vigorously defended me in the comments, sending me screenshots of their responses dismantling her claims. I didn't need to engage. I simply watched as the drama unfolded. Eventually, overwhelmed by the backlash, Jennifer deleted her post. Jacob and I couldn't help but laugh when we realized she had removed it due to the overwhelming support I received. No one was buying her story anymore. It's sad, really, because if Jennifer would just apologize, she could restore her relationship with our mother, the only person who still wants to be in her life. But instead, she's too stubborn, choosing to destroy every family bond she has left. Not only is she alienating her loved ones, but she's also tarnishing her reputation with these reckless antics. Given her Facebook post was public, I'm sure her coworkers and friends have seen it, and that's only making things worse for her. At this point, I don't even feel angry with her anymore. I just pity her. I still can't quite figure out what caused her to become this way, but whatever it is, I truly hope she moves past it. This level of obsession with someone else's life isn't healthy. Update 3. After my last post, several people suggested I talk to my mother to dig deeper into what might have caused Jennifer's behavior. I have to admit, my curiosity got the better of me. As I mentioned before, she didn't start showing animosity toward me until she was about 15, so something must have triggered that intense resentment. A few hours ago, I called my mom to ask if she had any insight. While she didn't have a clear recollection, she did share that she had a similar conversation with Jennifer a few years back. During that talk, Jennifer revealed she had grown tired of constantly being compared to me. This came as a surprise because honestly, I couldn't think of anyone in our family who would do that. We weren't raised in an environment of comparison. We were fairly equal in most things. Neither of us was particularly more attractive or successful. Even academically, we were on par. But then my mom revealed something new. When Jennifer was 15, She had been secretly dating a guy from my year. He had insisted on keeping the relationship hidden, and it turned out he was the one comparing her to me. Apparently, he had some kind of interest in me, and that comparison had weighed heavily on her. Looking back, I remember rejecting that boy several times. Perhaps that rejection sparked issues I was unaware of, as Jennifer never confided in me about their relationship. The high school incident where I inadvertently caused her humiliation certainly didn't help matters. I later learned that she was ridiculed for months, and the boy ended their relationship shortly after the incident. At the time, I had already graduated and was oblivious to the fallout. These accumulated grievances likely intensified her resentment towards me. I wish Jennifer had opened up about the pressure she felt being compared to me. Perhaps we could have addressed these issues earlier. But now, it feels too late to mend those old wounds. I hold on to a hope that maybe someday we'll reconcile, but for now, all I can do is feel sympathy for her plight. Thankfully, Jacob and I are heading on our honeymoon soon, which I hope will provide some much-needed distraction from these family tensions.